Welcome to The Explainer. Okay, today we're diving into something I know pretty much all of us struggle with at some point. We're looking at exactly why setting boundaries feels so agonizing, and how you can actually master the art of the no across literally any context. Whether you're dealing with a super demanding boss, an overstepping family member, or even international business partners, learning how to say no without totally destroying your relationships is an absolute superpower.
Let's kick things off with this incredibly powerful quote from ADHD counseling expert William Roberts. It brilliantly illustrates the psychological toll of people-pleasing. You see, when we say yes to everyone, we really aren't helping everyone. Instead, we fall into this massive negative feedback loop. We feel overworked because we took on way too much, we underperform because we're stretched entirely too thin, and then, worst of all, we're just consumed by guilt because we feel like we're constantly letting people down.
So here's our roadmap for this explainer. 1. The struggle to say no. 2. Delivering a positive no. 3. Scripts for boundary setting. 4. Saving face in conflict. And 5. The cross-cultural no.
All right, let's jump right into section 1, the struggle to say no. So why does that tiny two-letter word get completely stuck in our throats? Well, this struggle is incredibly common, but as podcaster Jen Kirkman highlights in her work on boundary setting, neurodivergent individuals, particularly those with ADHD or ADHD, face some very unique hurdles. For instance, impulsivity and that craving for instant gratification can make an immediate commitment sound really exciting in the moment. You want that hit of dopamine from being helpful, right? But because of executive functioning deficits, like difficulty planning ahead or managing time, we often agree to things without realizing the massive long-term drain on our energy. Add in a deep-seated desire to avoid conflict, maybe some low self-esteem from past criticisms, and saying yes just feels like the absolute safest, easiest option at the time.
Moving right along to section 2, delivering a positive no. Okay, so we know why it's so hard, but how do we actually fix it without burning bridges and ruining our relationships? Well, this brings us to negotiation expert William Ury's concept, and it is a total game changer. In his book, The Power of a Positive No, Ury points out that saying no is actually a process of asserting your interests while still respecting the other person. You see, normal negative power seeks to punish the other person, but positive power simply aims to protect and advance your own needs.
Think of Ury's process like a three-step sandwich. You don't just lead with a blunt rejection. First, you uncover your yes, meaning you start by saying yes to your own core needs and values. Second, you empower your no. You set a clear, firm boundary that flows naturally right out of that first yes, keeping a really matter-of-fact, neutral tone. And finally, you propose a positive yes for the future. You offer a constructive outcome that demonstrates you still respect the other person's needs.
Which brings us to section 3, scripts for boundary setting.
Now, here's where the rubber really meets the road. How do we put this theory into actual spoken words? The workplace experts at Sensei AI warn that a lot of us completely sabotage our own boundaries. When you're refusing a request, avoid the trap of over-apologizing. Actually, making up fake excuses is even worse. Lying can destroy your credibility if the truth comes out, and excessive apologies actually make your boundary feel optional or guilt-inducing. And whatever you do, please don't say maybe just to avoid conflict. You always want to aim for clear, concise limits coupled with helpful alternatives. Let's look at a real-world example. Say your boss asks you to work late, but you have plans. You could say, "I really appreciate your trust in me for this. I do have prior commitments tonight, but I'm available early tomorrow to get started on it." Notice how that totally nails Utria's formula? It affirms your commitment and appreciates their trust. That's the first yes. It protects your evening with a clear boundary. That's the no. And it offers to jump in early tomorrow. That's your final constructive yes. But what about those situations requiring a really hard boundary? Academic coach Leslie Kern offers this flawlessly firm approach. You might say, "I have already solidified my service commitments for the year and won't be able to add more." Remember, saying no means saying less. You absolutely do not need to give a long-winded, overly defensive bibliography of your entire to-do list just to prove how busy you are. Doing that just opens the door for negotiation. A simple, firm statement is vastly more effective.
Now, to actually maintain these boundaries long-term, ADHD expert Skye Rapson recommends what she calls the 4 C's. Your boundaries absolutely must be clear, using unambiguous language. They have to be communicated explicitly because, let's face it, people can't read your mind. They must be consistent and enforced regularly so you maintain your credibility. And lastly, they should be confirmed, ensuring a collaborative understanding with the people around you.
All right, zooming out a bit for Section 4, saving face in conflict.
So just when you think you've got the scripts down perfectly, we have to look at the bigger picture. Because how a no is received brings us to Stella Tingtumi's incredible face negotiation theory. According to this theory, whenever we interact, and especially whenever we say no, we're engaging in this really delicate dance to protect our ego and identity. Tingtumi calls this face. It's basically a metaphor for your claimed sense of a favorable social self-image. And face work refers to all those communicative behaviors we use to uphold our own face or to threaten or even support another person's face.
Here's the crucial point. How we manage this face changes completely depending on our culture. In individualistic cultures like the US, Germany, or the UK, the focus is squarely on the I. People prioritize self-face defense, direct communication, and independence. But in collectivistic cultures, which, by the way, make up about 2/3 of the world, like Japan, India, or Morocco, the focus is entirely on the we. They prioritize mutual face protection, group harmony, and actively avoiding direct conflict. So a direct American-style no might protect an individual's time perfectly well in New York, but in a collectivistic culture, that exact same directness destroys group harmony and causes someone to lose face.
Which perfectly sets up our final section, Section 5, the cross-cultural no.
This slide is an absolute lifesaver, especially if you work on global teams. As the experts at Culture Coach reveal, no rarely sounds the same across borders. In the US, a rejection is cushioned but pretty direct. I don't think that will work. But in Japan, that directness is seen as aggressive. You'll instead hear something like, "That will be difficult," or maybe just a sharp intake of breath. Over in Morocco, maybe tomorrow often means probably never, which preserves hospitality. And in India, saying "we'll do the needful" respects hierarchy, making it sound like agreement even if it's actually a polite refusal. What sounds like an enthusiastic yes or a vague maybe in one culture is often a definitive, polite rejection in another.
And then, of course, we have the classic British understatement. In the UK, forcing a direct no causes a lot of awkwardness and a loss of face, so they rely heavily on subtle irony. If a British colleague says to you, "I hear what you're saying," they almost never mean they actually agree with you. What it really translates to is, "I completely disagree, but I am being polite about it." As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this question. Look back at a recent interaction where someone gave you a vague maybe or a delayed response. Were they just busy, or did you completely miss a cultural no? You see, mastering the no isn't just about scripting out your own boundaries to protect your time. It's really about having the empathy, the mindfulness, and the cultural intelligence to truly hear when others are trying to protect theirs.